the issue of a particular dance form should be sort of blown out of proportion, or become an issue, because there is nothing so specific for a Kathak or a Bharatnatyam or a Odissi or a Manipuri or whatever. For me, as a woman, forget about the dance vocation. As a woman, I think it's sort of it's challenging or if I can put it in a stronger word, insulting the intelligence of the common man. I'm afraid it's both an issue against the gender as well as an issue against maligning a particular vocation.
Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. As if what he did was not bad enough, Shankar Mishra has reached a new low. Classical dancers have bladder issues, is how his lawyer chose to defend his deplorable act. For the uninitiated, in a drunken state, Mishra, who was travelling on an Air India flight, allegedly urinated on his co-passenger, a 70-year-old woman. Hell broke loose. Mishra not only erred once, but twice over. The first time by his deplorable act, and the second by defaming a woman and the entire community of classical dancers. Understandably, they are gunning for him. We have one such in our studios, Kathak exponent Shovana Narayan, to speak on the issue in this edition of HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. Welcome to the show, Shovana Narayan, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Let me begin with asking you, what are the physical challenges, and I underline the word physical, that classical dancers face?
The physical challenges, first of all, are that I would say that it's a kind of challenge which is faced by all dancers. We cannot afford to look unaesthetic, which means our hair has to be tied up properly, pinned, clothes, everything pinned. The ghungroos, particularly in the case of a Kathak dancer, the ghungroos are long. We have 200 of them on each ankle. Now, imagine it's opening up or throwing. So there are, of course, times when the ghungroo also just breaks and then it's under your feet. But those can't be helped. But again, to see that you've tied it up well, it's not knocking against your, shin bone and things like that, so that it doesn't hamper the movement. And so on and so forth. So these are a lot of things that have to be taken into account before we go onto the stage. And that means once you're on stage, you're not going to come back. We finish your 1.5 hours or 2 hours or 2.5 hours. We are on stage, we perform, we speak, we perform, we speak, we perform, and we do our abhinay, our rhythmic pieces, and then we come back. You cannot afford to pant. You might be doing the most strenuous thing, but you have to have breath control, because when you're speaking, you have to be, completely. So it's yoga in its highest order, pranayam, practice of pranayam in the highest order. So these are all kinds of physical challenges.
You spoke of control. So let me come to the controversial bladder control, which is really hitting headlines.
Yes, bladder control is very important, because we have to. We find, in fact, one of our dancers' complaints are, with all architects, are that when you design a green room, the washroom should be designed somewhere close to it, because at the last moment, whether it's a musician or a dancer, we first go there, we just empty ourselves out, so that once you're on stage, then there's no coming back.
Let me ask you, do exponents of Kathak in particular face any specific issues that other classical dancers do not?
I would say Kathak dancers have a little more advantageous position. They are in an advantage because we are either wearing a lehenga. So, as long as we take care to see that our dupattas are not pinned so directly that it gets into the churidar underneath, and so then you're unpinning the whole thing. That's so. Normally, we take care to see that is not done.
Finer
And
details.
yes, those finer details. But for a Odissi or Bharatanatyam dancer, their costume is a little more not as easy that way compared to a Kathak dancers. But that's about all. Why a dancer? A singer. A singer is also in the same position. A musician is also in the same position. You cannot, you don't have that you can, sort of the luxury of getting up any time in the midst of a concert. There's no particular issue that this is only for a Kathak dancer or for a Bharatanatyam dancer or for an Odissi dancer or for a Manipuri dancer. Nothing like that.
Yes, but in the recent controversy, which you are aware of, the Air India controversy, if I may put it mildly, it is the Kathak dancers who've been mentioned.
I don't know why, because till today, at least I do not know the identity of the lady in question. She's a dancer. She's not in the young 20s age category or 30 age group.
She's 70 plus.
She's 70 plus. So that's the only thing that we know. We do not know the kind of dance form she does. So I really do not understand as to why the issue of a particular dance form should be sort of blown out of proportion or become an issue, because there is nothing so specific for a Kathak or a Bharatanatyam or a Odissi or a Manipuri or whatever. The arguments put forth by the counsel of the other side is one of the most absurd and weird, preposterous arguments that one can ever think of. For me, as a woman, forget about the dance vocation. As a woman, I think it's sort of it's challenging or if I can put it in a stronger word, insulting the intelligence of the common man. Number one. Number two, I would say that when in any vocation, whether it is a dance vocation, the vocation of dance, even a lawyer is in court arguing. Even a sports person is practicing and is in the race. And we all have, everyone in all vocations, there are moments where you have to, the bladder control is an important aspect of a professional life. The women throughout, whether a common woman or whether in a profession or whether in X profession or Y profession, I think bladder control is something that a woman inherently is always, it's part of her, the way she would be doing, because there are so many instances where facilities are not available. And as dancers, we have to have bladder control. As women, we have to have bladder control. Whatever be the external circumstances, this is an inherent feature and part of every woman's experience.
So you think, from what I understand, it is also a gender issue?
I'm afraid it's both an issue against the gender as well as an issue against a particular, maligning a particular vocation.
Coming to the latest controversy, and I mentioned Air India again, what is your take on whatever you have read and what has come out so far?
My take is that if a person is so inebriated, he's so drunk, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he walks over, thinks he's probably going to the loo, but goes over and urinates on a woman. And the question is about drunkenness, about the how could a person be allowed to be so drunk on the flight. So why isn't the issue of his of the drunkenness being taken up? Why wasn't he put to a breath analyzer test, etc.? There are so many questions which come into the mind.
You know, you spoke of breath analysis. I take your point, but it was not possible because the complainant had not registered a complaint, and according to reports, she had accepted the apology, and it was all hunky dory, if I may use the term.
Yeah, well taken. That's well pointed out. Yes, that's true.
Shankar Mishra's counsel has claimed that the complainant had issues of bladder control and urinated on herself. And let me quote, she is a Kathak dancer, and 80% of Kathak dancers have this issue. What is your take? And would you set the record straight, given that you yourself are an exponent of Kathak?
I'm sorry to say, I do not agree with it at all. First of all, to say that all Kathak dancers or 80% or whatever percentage have this issue, absolutely not. If she had urinated on herself, only the seat would have been affected. And according to newspaper reports or according to media reports, uh, the early newspaper suggests otherwise, that she was drenched, and that is why she had to be given a change of clothes. So there's a difference between just wetting the lower side of the garment, and there's a difference between being drenched. These are two different things. So I think again that sort of those are contradictory arguments made by the counsel of Mr. Mishra. And so I really do not know. Is it a question of wanting to deflect it from the main issue? As of now, according to what one has heard, I think it is a question, a sheer issue of defaming a woman, of defaming a vocation, and also of digressing from the main issue and just diverting attention.
Let me quote a little more from what the counsel has said, that the complainant was suffering from some disease relating to prostate, which several Kathak dancers, and I underline Kathak dancers again, suffer from. Apparently, there are studies on various dancers and athletes suffering from this. What is your take?
I've come to know that there has been a study, but it doesn't talk about, I do not see the Kathak part of it over there, at least in the reports that are that's available on the internet. But yes, but it's a very small percentage, but that's a small thing, like it says if you're sneezing or coughing or laughing or something, it's a little, that is what it claims, but it doesn't say that you're just emptying out your bladder. I mean, they're two different things. Just a little, when you're sneezing, according to the report, those medical studies, and certainly at least I did not see Kathak being mentioned and 80% being mentioned. I do not. But even if it has been mentioned in some medical report, there's a difference between a little loss, but as compared to emptying out. There's a complete difference. And I think again we are trying to divert attention from the main issue.
So let me ask you upfront, do dancers suffer from urinary incontinence, as has been said?
To my knowledge, no. Why is it only dancers? Why can't it be another woman? Why can't it be another woman in any other vocation? So I am sorry, I do not think so. Now, specifically as a Kathak practitioner, no. I mean, not that we are aware of. Prostrate, no. No, at least not 80% or 70% or whatever percent. But if a, so I do not know what it is. If it is somebody's personal medical problem, that is different. But that is again not, you cannot generalize. And in this case, even if it was a personal problem, it would have just been wetting the seat, not drenching oneself.
Mentioning the study, a 2018 study, screening of urinary incontinence in female dancers suggests that 22.5% of dancers suffer from this.
Could be, maybe. But as I said, incidentally, I must as well say, thanks to this particular incident, I've added a new word to my vocabulary, namely incontinence. Earlier, I was not aware of this word. Now, if the word incontinence suggests it's a small loss, as I said, a small loss is very different. You might just wet your underpants, and it's a very different from drenching. Very different.
Let me quote a little more from that study. Hip hop had the highest incidence of incontinence, a word you've just learnt, and so have I, around 50%, followed by Bharatnatyam, which was around 28%. The study also says that there was a percentage of dancers who reported urine loss while participating in their particular and respective dance forms.
Maybe, but as it might happen if they had not emptied their bowels, their bladders out before going into the rehearsal room. Normally, I find that dancers have a lot of control over their bladders. Lot of control.
So, in one sense, you are completely refuting the study.
I am not refuting the study because, as I said, the word incontinence is very different from losing control of a bladder. Two different things. The word incontinence, according to what I read in the dictionary, means a little loss of urine when you just cough. So that means it will be a few drops. It will not be just letting the floodgates open.
So, I think you will, in this context, agree with what one of your colleagues has said. Dancers always have control over their bodies, quote unquote.
I agree with the quote. I agree with the quote.
What is your take on the way Air India has handled this?
They could have handled it more sensitively, more with alacrity, and they should have taken all aspects into account, particularly if it was such a sensitive case. They should have been aware that such matters are not hushed under the seat or under the brushed under the carpet. Sooner or later, something will happen.
Another dancer has said, and I quote, "This is what happens when you live in a male-dominated society." Do you agree with this?
Yes, to a large extent, because even the fact that we are discussing such a matter shows that somewhere the argument of a council against a woman, as you mentioned a short while ago, that means you're taking it as a gender issue. Yes, against a woman and against a profession in which you have a large number of women professionals, is being questioned and is being taken apart and is being maligned and is being put into the docks. And as I said, it is question of diverting it from the main issue.
Let me risk being a devil's advocate and ask you finally, isn't there a possibility, looking at some of the claims and counterclaims, that this was maybe an allegation without substance, and in that sense an exaggerated claim, if you will allow me to use that term?
I'm no one to say anything because I am only basing my reactions according to media report.
What is your gut
And,
feeling?
my gut feeling is that no woman would take it lying down. There are two ways. Either you'll take it completely lying down, you wouldn't want to face the whole thing again. It's like an ostrich. Or you'll say, look, I mean, this is not done.
So what are the lessons learnt?
The lessons learned are that no woman today will feel safe, number one, even in a. And I would say there's one thing about how drunk should, whether is there going to be some kind of a analysis before boarding the plane? I do not know. To say that even the 2 or 3 that you're served on plane, and particularly in business class and first class, will be too much for you, man or woman. I'm just saying, man or woman. Number 2 is that also the training of the airline staff, how to react in such situation. Maybe there could have been more, more challenging situations than even more that is beyond our even imagination as of now. And so that the kind of sensitivity, the kind of sort of emergent the way the staff should handle, or both the cockpit as well as the cabin. I think we need to look into it, and should there be also a reporting mechanism. If such a serious issue had happened, I think irrespective, I think the both sides, it can't say, okay, he has apologized or she has apologized or he has, whatever be there, and so you've let it go. I think we need to review.
So what you are saying, if I understand correctly, is that irrespective of a complaint, apology, whatever, the cabin crew or the airline in question should have been more proactive to take the incident, irrespective of whether one is complaining or not complaining, etc. Is that what you're saying?
Because now, after a gap of 1 month, sort of too much of things have happened in between. So I feel that the airline staff could have been more proactive. They should have been.
Shovana Narayan, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much indeed. And let's hope that such a incident never occurs again.
True, well said.